Importance of the ordinary foul. Perimeter. The ordinary foul is without a doubt the single most foul in water polo games. Sometimes there can be 50 or more called in any one game. A lot has to do with the type of defense teams are playing. The more a team presses on the perimeter, the higher the ordinary fouls are called. Maintaining consistency in how they are called can be a challenge. It is extremely important not to take them lightly. What you call as an ordinary in the first period should be the same at the end of the game. Let's take a look at what an ordinary foul on the perimeter looks like. First, a look at the rule book definition. Rule 6, ordinary fouls. Section 2, pertaining to starting early. Section 3, assisting a player. Section 4, holding or pushing off from the pool. 5, using the bottom. 6, taking the ball underwater. Section 7, using clenched fist. Section 8, using two hands. And the two sections that we are going to deal with, Section 9, impeding, and Section 10, pushing or pushing off. Impeding. Quote, rulebook. Prevent the free motion of an opponent who is not holding the ball, including swimming on the opponent's shoulders, back, or legs. Holding is lifting, carrying, or touching the ball, but does not include dribbling the ball. Impeding includes ducking under to gain an advantage. Now, the first thing for the referee to consider is whether the opponent is holding the ball. If a player is holding the ball, then the defender can attack or challenge without penalty unless it's a player safety issue, such as contact to the head or neck area, or kicking and striking. Unfortunately, some referees may make the mistake of automatically calling an ordinary foul when the defender knocks the ball out of the opponent's hand when he or she is holding the ball, or they anticipate the foul with a quick whistle. Anticipate the action, not the foul. Read the player interaction before blowing your whistle. Accuracy and timing is important for developing consistency, especially when calling an ordinary foul outside 5 meters where a direct shot on goal is possible. Part of the problem with inconsistency in calling the perimeter has to do with coverage and communication by the two referees. For the perimeter referee to always be in a good position to see P4 or P5 area is at times difficult. Sometimes the attack referee can cover that side if the perimeter referee can cover the attack area. Collaboration is key, and radio headsets are extremely important. Note on referees identified in the videos. There will be some controversial calls or no calls that may appear in these clips. The primary focus is to understand how situations happen and what techniques are utilized while attempting to gain an advantage or prevent one. Positioning to see the full action and reaction is very important. Negative reflections on any referee is not intended during this presentation. Mistakes, whether avoidable or unavoidable, are made by the best of us. Please keep in mind the different angles of the video camera and the referee. The referee makes the decision in a split second. As an evaluator, I can review a clip several times in slow motion or frame by frame. Remember, the sole purpose of showing these clips is for referee education/awareness and to help develop consistency in applying the rules as written. Okay, here we go with the first clip. A no call at P3 and an ordinary foul will be called at P4. It'll run through in real time and then it'll run through once in slow motion. And let's take a look. Alright, let's go back and take a look at the first one. You can see that there's a pretty stark contrast between how the defense plays in the first position here at P3 as opposed to the second position at P4. Now again, remember, your focus should be on whether or not the player has a hand on the ball. No hand on the ball, it can be impeding. Hand on the ball, the defense is allowed to attack. In this situation, the girl simply, on defense, simply puts her right hand on the shoulder, and as soon as the offensive player feels it, she releases the ball. And now the defense releases. You can always tell by the defense whether or not you're going to be calling an ordinary foul because of the way they press. A lot of them have the intention of fouling. In this situation, this defender did not want to foul. All right, now we go to the second one. And you'll see, okay, it's legal. She has her hand on the ball, can attack, which she does. Comes around with her left forearm and places it on the shoulder and will sink the offensive player, who then releases the ball. Now once she releases the ball, it's very difficult for that defender to not impede when the offensive player tries to get up to the ball and recover. And that's the contrast between the two. In the one situation, you have the defense trying not to foul, and she responds to the offensive player releasing the ball, so it's a no call. And at P4, you can see a different technique being applied, where she'll come in and place her forearm on the shoulder and sink, which is perfectly legal while her hand is on the ball. The problem is, as soon as she releases it, she is now impeding her opportunity to get up and go to the ball. Therefore, you blow the ordinary whistle. Here you'll see a very good close-up of an ordinary foul. But you'll also see these two players will come into position, and you'll see an offensive turnover for using a straight arm to maintain space and control the defender. Ordinary foul. Straight arm and turnover. Now we'll take it back. Hand on the ball, defense can attack. And the defense does. Now the way he's attacking, he's showing two hands, but his forearms are creating a fouling situation once the ball is released. As that ball is released, that defender is not making any effort to back off. The fact that his body position is over the offensive player, the fact that his forearm is on top of the offensive player, this is a good ordinary foul being called. Now the ball's going to go over. And if we take it back just a little bit and you look at the top part of the screen, you can see that this offensive player already has his arm extended on the defender. He's preparing to receive the ball. Unfortunately, if he's using that defender by pushing on that defender to maintain space or keep him from attacking before the ball is received, that's an offensive foul. And if he's doing it once he receives the ball, that would still be an offensive foul. He cannot push on that defender who is not holding the ball and expect to not have an offensive foul called on him. So you see the ball coming in. You can see the defensive player is now starting to move in closer, but he still has his hand on top of that defensive player and is basically controlling that player. Now, as he gets his hand on the ball, he continues to push. Now, of course, there's a little bit of embellishment there, but this player is pushing on the defensive player without the ball in hand, and even if it was in hand, it still would be an offensive foul. All right, let's take a look at this clip. And what would you call in this situation? Okay, what was your call? Would you have called an ordinary foul, as was the situation here? Or would you have turned the ball over, called an offensive foul? Or would you have called simulation, which would be, again, an offensive foul, ordinary foul? Now, as you take a look at this clip, things to watch for: when the ball is in hand, defense is allowed to extend out, which he does with his right hand and arm. Makes contact. As soon as he makes contact, though, what does the offensive player does? He wants to maintain spacing. He wants to maintain control and leverage so that he can see where he's passing the ball. So he uses his left hand on the defender's right shoulder. And ducks into the defender as he let go of the ball. However, notice that the defender, vertical position, gets both hands up. I don't want to foul. Now he's in that vertical position, and he can step back to the ball and get the ball up and dry, and has a free throw. So in this situation, you can call or make a no call, or call an offensive foul. And this is egregious enough to call an offensive foul. If you didn't move in quite so aggressively, you wouldn't have to call anything. If you repeated that move, then you could call a simulation. Taking a look at this clip, we'll watch an ordinary foul being called right here. 5-meter line is right there and runs across. So the foul will be called outside 5 meters. Therefore, direct shot on goal is allowed. Take a look. Now, to me, that sequence was a very quick whistle, and the defense really wasn't fouling. If we take a look at it, the ball comes in, is received, ball in hand. defense is allowed to attack. Defender puts right hand on the shoulder, ball still in hand, then it's released, and as the ball is released, the defender releases the hold and puts two hands up and sinks down in the water. Really, no whistle is necessary, but the whistle blew right away. It was very, very quick. Now she's awarded a direct shot on goal if she chooses, which she does. And it gets blocked by the field player. No interference with a free throw. Once the ball is released, that player can move forward with her arm, and she does, and blocks the ball. Good defense. But whistles just a little bit too quick. Should have a little bit more patience, especially when it involves the possibility for a 5-meter direct shot on goal. Of course, one of the things that you have to be aware of is the offensive player committing an ordinary foul and a turnover on the perimeter. And in this clip, you'll see the use of a straight arm to ward off the defender, which is illegal while he's holding the ball. This can be very prevalent on the far side of the pool away from the perimeter referee. If it's done underwater, sometimes it's difficult to detect. In this situation, the player wants to hold on to the ball, and by holding on to the ball, it allows the defensive player to attack. And he is legally putting his hand on the offensive player, but the offensive player is returning to keep his spacing so that he can make a successful pass. That is illegal. Straight arm, keep the defensive player away, ball turns over, it's an offensive foul. And correctly called. In this clip, you have to look closely because one may tend to make a mistake and make the wrong call. These two players basically have a balanced situation. One, the defender is holding the offensive player's arm. Two, the offensive player is reaching out and holding on to the defender. Obviously, his reason is to maintain spacing so that he can receive the pass. The defender in this situation is holding on to his arm so that he can do a pull-in. And that pull-in can look like the offensive player is committing an offensive foul by moving into the defender's space. And as we move this a little bit further along, you'll see exactly what happens. Boom. Right there. Now you'll notice, if you look at the referee up top here, signals a pull-in. However, that pull-in should be an exclusion foul and not just an ordinary foul. Now we'll take this back and we'll let it play through. As we look a little bit closer here, you can see exactly how it all takes place. Of course, right here the hand is on the ball and there really isn't a foul, but as soon as that ball is released, the fact that that defensive player is pulling in, that is an exclusion foul. In this clip, you're going to see a little bit different technique by the defender. We're looking at these two players right here. The offensive player will receive the ball and the defensive player will respond accordingly. So watch it, see what you think. This is a spin technique that is more prevalent now than it used to be, and you should become familiar with it. You can see right here in this situation, the defense already has a hand on the offensive player, so basically impeding right off the bat, and it could be called by the perimeter referee who's over on this side of the pool. However, because of the distance across, and because this is his left hand and arm and it's well underwater, he probably can't see that from the deck level. It's a lot easier with a camera on this side to pick that out. So he could be called for an ordinary foul right there. Now the offensive player goes for the ball, gets his hand on the ball, defense is allowed to attack, which he does. And he'll reach across and try to go for the ball, and basically he's going to spin in the opposite direction. And he does spin around as the offensive player releases the ball. Now that spin is a little bit on top of the body, so basically it's impeding and you could call an ordinary foul there. However, the official does not. And now the defense comes back again and repeats the move, and actually this time knocks the arm so that the ball goes out of hand. But his spin is on top of the offensive player, and therefore the ordinary foul is called. Now you'll see in this next one a much better technique is executed in this next clip, and so we'll skip right over to there and you can see the difference. Alright, in this situation it's pretty much a continuation of the same type of technique, spin technique you saw in the last clip by the defense. This defender was excluded and is going behind the goal to go over to the exclusion area, and the dark team will be setting up a 6-on-5 power play. This player right here will receive the ball, and that should be your focus as you watch the clip in live time. Now I enlarged it so you can get a good close-up and watch the technique by the defender. And now we can break it down. And you can see the ball come into the offensive player, number 7. And the defense will extend out and put his left hand on the shoulder. And as the offensive player releases the ball, right here, he kind of releases the ball and pushes it out. The defensive player will show 2 hands and will spin. but he does the spinning in a vertical position, keeping both arms well out of the water, indicating I don't want to foul. And as I look at this, I would say that technique is pretty good, and he does a pretty good job. He attacks when it's legal, and once that ball is pushed away and released, then he recovers in a vertical position, a no foul posture situation, allows the other player to come up to go for the ball, and of course he's awarded a free throw here, but if it was a no call, he still would have been able to get up. And you can see there's a little bit of frustration by the defensive player, because he kind of, right here, just kind of indicates, hey, I was not trying to foul. And an ordinary foul is awarded.